All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this village board meeting to order on Monday, February 7, 2022, and ask if you would all please rise and join the village board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Scaletta.
Here.
Trustee LaBedz.
Here.
Trustee Grasse.
Here.
Trustee Canty.
Here.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Here.
Trustee Baldino.
Here.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Here.
Trustee Bertucci.
Here.
President Hayes.
Here. Before we get started with the formal agenda tonight, I just wanted to say just a couple of words about some recent passings that we've had in the local area. Dick Duchessois, Mr. D, passed away at the age of 100 years old, and he was just such a great American, a member of the greatest generation, not a resident of Arlington Heights, but an honorary resident, and one who just contributed so much to our community for so many years and really was the lifeblood of Arlington Park Racecourse in Arlington Heights, and really did so much, not just for the racetrack and all its employees, but for our community as well. And so on behalf of a grateful community and on behalf of a grateful nation, we just recognize all of his accomplishments and his great life over the course of 100 years. I also wanted to recognize the passing of one of our neighbors, a good friend to the Village of Arlington Heights, Mayor Nick Helmer from Prospect Heights, also an Army veteran himself, and one who did just such a great job for his community. I know he was a friend of mine, not just a colleague as a fellow mayor, but an individual who was really dedicated to turning things around in his community, and I just appreciate all that he did for his community and for the local area as well. So condolences on behalf of the Village of Arlington Heights to the families of Dick Duchessois and Nick Helmer. We move then to the formal agenda, and we do have 3 sets of minutes to approve tonight. First is from the Committee of the Whole meeting from January 10, 2022. Any changes or passes?
Pass.
Passed by Trustee Baldino
Pass.
and passed by Trustee Scaletta.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Grasse. Any further questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from January 18, 2022. Any changes or passes?
Pass.
Passed by Trustee Baldino and Trustee Schwingbeck. Motion to approve
So move.
by Trustee Canty, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. Any questions or comments from the board or the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, our village board meeting minutes from January 18, 2022. Same passes from Trustee Baldino and Schwingbeck.
Move approval. Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we move on to the approval of the accounts payable, and I call on Trustee Bertucci.
I'll move approval of the warrant register for the check dated 1/30/2022 in the amount of $2,641,334.83.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Bertucci, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Grasse.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Canty.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Well, next we move on to recognitions and presentations. And I do have a proclamation to read tonight in recognition of Black History Month. And so let me just read that. In honor of Black History Month, February 2022, whereas during Black History Month, we honor the extraordinary contributions made by African Americans throughout the history of our republic, and we renew our commitment to liberty and justice for all. Whereas during Black History Month, we recognize the achievements of African Americans and their role in shaping history, along with the contributions that African Americans have made to enhance the economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development of our country. Whereas this year's theme, Black Health and Wellness, explores the legacy of not only Black scholars and medical practitioners in Western medicine, but also other ways of knowing, for example, birth workers, doulas, midwives, naturopaths, herbalists, and the like, throughout the African diaspora. Whereas the theme for this year considers activities, rituals, and initiatives that Black communities have done to be well. Whereas during Black History Month, we recognize the essential role of African Americans in shaping the story of America and honor their courage and contributions. Now, therefore, I, Thomas W. Hayes, Mayor of the Village of Arlington Heights, along with the Arlington Heights Village Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim February 22 as Black History Month in the Village of Arlington Heights and urge all of our citizens to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Well, speaking of shaping the story of America, we have been honoring a prominent citizen in Arlington Heights for this whole year by way of our village vehicle sticker, and that's Frank White. And so he shaped our community, the Village of Arlington Heights, beginning in the late 1800s and proceeding into the early 1900s. As a very prominent citizen in Arlington Heights, was a charter member of the first all-volunteer fire department in our community, served as first president of the department in 1894, and then in 1906 was promoted to captain of Hose Company Number 1. Mr. White was also a very successful business owner in Arlington Heights, owning and operating 5 successful barbershops in town. And so we thank Mr. White for all that he did in shaping the Village of Arlington Heights as a very, not just a prominent African-American citizen, but a prominent citizen in our community for so many years. And so again, this is a recognition of not just Black History Month, but recognition of all that he did and others did for our community for so many years. And so we will continue to recognize his contributions and all African Americans throughout this year by way of our vehicle sticker. So thank you for our community. And I know there will be other celebrations as well. I know other local governmental bodies are doing other things, not just this month, but throughout the year as well. And so we encourage all of those activities as we celebrate African American Month. Anything else from the board? All right. No other recognitions and presentations then, so we move on to citizens to be heard. Becky, any blue cards?
Not tonight.
All right. Are there any citizens in the audience that wish to address the board on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, then we'll move on to old business, and we do have a number of motions to report out tonight. The first is from our committee of the whole meeting from January 10, 2022, at which we discussed at length our Affordable Housing Trust Fund and various priorities and the process by which those monies will be allocated. And so with that motion to report out, I call on Trustee Canty.
Thank you, President Hayes. I move tonight, as I did then, that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the Village Board of Trustees direct staff to proceed with requesting letters of interest and the next steps as outlined in the report, with final ranking criteria and feedback from the Village Board on proposals to occur when they are received.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Canty, seconded by Trustee Grasse. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we move to motions from our committee of the whole meeting from earlier this evening, and I would call on Trustee Bertucci.
I will move now, as I did earlier, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Andre Arrington for appointment to the Housing Commission with a term ending April 30th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Bertucci, seconded by Trustee Canty. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, Andre, if you come forward to the podium, if you would. And we'll make it official. And this is Probably the hardest thing you're going to have to do as a member of the Housing Commission. So if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, Andre Arrington,
having been appointed to the Housing Commission
having been appointed to the Housing Commission
in the Village of Arlington Heights
in the Village of Arlington Heights
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge my duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, Andre. We know you well. I'm going to present you with a village logo pin to wear as a proud member of this community's boards and commissions and as a representative of this village board, and to wear proudly as such. And also, if you take your oath, to sign with our village clerk over here. Thanks, Andre. And we do have one other motion to report out tonight regarding boards and commission appointments, and that was by Trustee Schwingbeck.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move now, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Shalu Gugnani, MD, for appointment to the Board of Health with a term ending April 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Schwingbeck, seconded by Trustee Baldino. Questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, Dr. Gugnani, if you come forward. And if you would also raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, Shalu Gugnani,
having been appointed to the Board of Health,
having been appointed to the Board of Health
the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. We know you will. We also present you with a village logo and your oath to sign with the village clerk. So congratulations. Thank you. We do have one other motion to report out from our committee of the whole meeting from earlier this evening, and that was by Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move now, as I did earlier this evening, to recommend to the Liquor Commissioner the issuance of a Class A liquor license to NEAD Investment Group Corp., doing business as Rock Bonky Japanese Steakhouse, located at 876 West Dundee Road.
Second?
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Canty. Any further questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, congratulations to Rock Bonky, new ownership. Good luck. Best wishes for continued good success at that location. All right, we'll move on then to the consent agenda. Are there any members of the board who wish to vote no, who wish to remove? Start over. Any members of the board who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Any members of the audience wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Right now, any members of the board who wish to vote no or pass on any item on the consent agenda? Trustee Tinaglia.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I would just like to vote a pass on consent legal C, only because I have done business with the petitioner, and I want to remain separate from that on this vote.
Okay, so noted. Any other passes or no votes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
All right, Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Schwingbeck. Roll call.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Grasse,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Moving on then to approval of bids. We do have one item tonight. Mr. Recklaus?
Yes, tonight on approval bids, we have a annual computer replacement program. And this is what we typically do. We put this out to bid, and we're recommending that the village board waive competitive bidding requirements and authorize the purchase of Dell computers using this joint purchasing agreement. Joint purchasing is when something is bid out in advance by another regional entity, and we take advantage of the bid price. And so we're recommending approval for the purchase of computers at a total cost of $50,405 from Dell Marketing.
Any questions? Or a motion?
Approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by trustee Tinaglia, seconded by trustee Grasse. Any further questions from the audience? Seeing none. Let's take a roll call on this.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes?
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Moving on to new business, we do have 2 items tonight. The first is the South Point Outlot, located at 711 to 715 East Rand Road. This is for an amendment to the PUD ordinance to allow changes to the South Point PUD development plan and a special use permit for a restaurant with a drive-through and conceptual approval of a restaurant with a drive-through as well as variations. Is the petitioner present? Why don't you come forward and just identify yourself for the record, if you would.
Richard Silverman with MJK Real Estate.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Silverman. Tell us what you're looking to do here.
Richard Silverman on behalf of MJK Real Estate. We're a third-generation real estate development company in Northfield, right down Rillo Road. We are a landowner at South Point Shopping Center. We are here tonight to discuss a 1.23-acre outlot parcel to Floor and Decor. We are here to propose a freestanding Chipotle development with a pickup window on site. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I will just walk through the specific requests. The petitioner is seeking an amendment to the plan unit development. This was subdivided and the outlot was created in 2019, but with the condition that they come back to the village board if there's any restaurant or drive-through component. They are seeking the special use approval, as mentioned, for the specific Chipotle restaurant, and then conceptual approval for a second potential restaurant on the outlot. And there's one small variation to waive a landscape tree in one island where they're proposing some outdoor dining. I will point out the second restaurant will have to come back before the board when that user is identified and specific details on their drive-through and parking demands so that that can be fully vetted and evaluated. This center, as everybody is aware, has struggled over the years. There have been so many different owners. There are still 6 different owners of this shopping center. Mr. Silverman and his team own several parcels now, and they're looking to invest in the center, which is very positive. There's also a new owner of the vacant Biff furniture space that we're working with as well, and they're looking to make some improvements in the shopping center. So I'll skip through. This is the site plan. The site is located with frontage on Palatine Road. The left building is the Chipotle building, and they're proposing a drive-through. It's actually, there will be no menu board. This is an app, a pre-ordered food service. Then they just drive up and pick up the food that's already prepared. If that changes, and they change from that component to a more typical drive-through, what we see, then we are requiring that they resubmit a traffic study so that that can be evaluated. It is a bit of a tight site. It works well as laid out for the current concept, but we want to make sure the village can take another look at that if they do change that over time. The other main change is this particular area that I'm circling is currently kind of a grass area. That'll be used for expanded parking to accommodate the overflow parking for the Olive Garden and Chili's. I'll skip over the detailed site plan. It's very well landscaped. The future restaurant pad area will be seeded and graded. The remainder of the site with the curbs will be installed until that user is identified and they come back through the village. Traffic-wise, traffic and parking has been looked at and studied with several different traffic studies. The main changes in level of service are at the entrance on Palatine Road with Eastwood Drive, primarily the north and south routes, vehicles trying to cross Palatine Road. It's already at level of service, D and F at some points of the day, with up to a 50-second delay for southbound traffic trying to cross Palatine Road. That will remain at level of service F, but increasing about 3 seconds for any vehicles waiting. And the peak hour, there's only 2 or 3 vehicles that are trying to make that movement anyway, but it does take a long time. There were some concerns at Plan Commission by a couple of residents about this intersection. The village reached out to IDOT, the State Department of Transportation. They did not believe that the warrants were met for a traffic study. The petitioner's consultant also performed a warrant study and it did not meet warrants. But IDOT will be looking to add some additional signage to better direct traffic control, at that opening in the median. The other area that we looked at is the parking situation. The area on the left is where part of the outlet will be, and that will take up about 63 existing spaces that are there, and that is primarily used for overflow parking for Olive Garden and Chili's, those 2 restaurants, because it's part of a larger PUD. They have less parking than they actually need, and they rely on the PUD as a whole for shared parking, and that's how the site was originally developed. So peak occupancy by those 2 restaurants was about 58 spaces in this area during the parking study. Pre-COVID, I think it was a little more than that. So as you can see on the right-hand side, the expansion of that parking area, and also with overflow parking for employees east of the main north-south drive aisle should accommodate that additional parking demand. You'll also see on the right-hand side there's nicer, clean pedestrian pathways to get to the restaurants. And actually, it's going to be a lot more convenient for Chili's customers, as right now there's really very limited parking available for that particular restaurant. We did look at the shopping center as a whole and all the different areas as to how they are with parking, and there is a surplus for the site as a whole. Even discounting the parking behind the center, there's 142 spaces behind the center. Would still be a surplus of parking, and even accounting for the Biff Furniture, which here is a furniture store at 1 space for 600 spaces. If that were regular retail at 1 per 300, there would still be a surplus of parking even under that scenario. And then lastly, we took a quick look at the zones A, B, and C. These are the areas where the parking will be generated for all the uses, and there's a required parking of 523 spaces in that area, and there will be 614 provided, so there'll still be a surplus of parking in those zones even after this development occurs. So the staff recommended approval, and the Plan Commission with an 8-0 vote also recommended approval of the requested actions with these stipulations and conditions, and I'd be happy to answer any specific questions the board may have.
All right, thanks, Charles. Well, my only concern is I have to go a little bit farther east to get to Chipotle now than where it was previously, but that's okay, I can handle that. So I'm very much appreciative of your willingness to invest in our community and really jumpstart this location, which has just been sorely in need of something to get it going. And so hopefully this will be provide the impetus to really bring that site to its fullest and highest and best use. And so very much appreciate your willingness to be part of that process. Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. And as the mayor said, thank you for helping to revitalize, the beginning of revitalizing this shopping center. I remember way back when it was thriving, and I used to shop at the Venture there. And if anybody remembers Venture department stores, so that was a long time ago. I have some questions about the site plan and the circulation and the pedestrian movement and so on. Because just seeing it on, well, at home on a small screen, I didn't quite understand. So one of my questions is, so where's the front door? Or I think now I can tell where the door is, it faces...
It's on the northern elevation, facing Palatine Road.
Okay, and there would be sufficient markings for people to realize where to park, you know, for those people that want to go in and not utilize the new way of ordering through the app and waiting.
There's
So that-
sufficient access and signage. Chipotle will be coming in with their sign package,
Okay.
as well as we have pavement markings and pedestrian-friendly crossing aisles that are marked on the pavement.
And so where, if, because in the information it discussed for people who didn't order ahead, thinking, maybe not realizing there's not a menu board or so forth, and they would pull over, where is it expected that they would pull over to order through their phones and then, you know, wait to get the pickup?
Understood. If the rare case happens where you pull up to the pickup window and your item is not ready, Chipotle staff has been trained to ask you to pull forward to keep the queue going, and there are designated spots that will be on the Chipotle signage submittal on our parking lot that says burrito pickup zone only.
And will staff come out and bring it to you
Yes,
then?
ma'am.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks. And then on the, I guess that's the west side with the angled parking. Because at first it looked, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Charles. It looked, that's a sufficient width for the vehicles to drive through that part, not where, next to the parking, where they go along. I guess my concern is there any concern about people backing out into
The
traffic lane?
The depth of the parking spaces, the width of the parking spaces, as well as the width of the drive aisle all meet village code. Our traffic consultants have advised us that this is a pedestrian, or a movement that everyone would be comfortable with and would not create a conflict.
Okay, thank you. And I have one other question. It has to do with the new parking area and specifically the lighting and the ability to cross, because you know, if employees, say for Chili's and Olive Garden, are expected to park there, or even customers do, will there be, I mean, obviously now it's kind of dark, but will there be sufficient lighting so that people can find their way? They have to go over this ring road. So I'm just concerned about pedestrians in the area.
Yes, ma'am. We are adding a light pole in the middle of the triangle parking lot that is currently a grass area. You can't, if you zoom in, Mr. Perkins is circulating. So we'll be adding a light there, and there are existing lights on the drive aisles as well that we will be maintaining.
And then the crosswalk for the pedestrians is the dark stripe across the roadway.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Those will be physical pavement markings.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand the project. I'm definitely supportive of it and look forward to coming to get my burrito there, or my burrito bowl. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for bringing forward this project. Charles, can you go back to the other diagram? So, I have a lot of questions regarding this, and, you know, and I'm not an engineer, so let's start there, but just trying to understand the flow. How many vehicles can be in the drive-through lane at one time? Or the pickup lane,
In
we'll
the
call it?
Chipotle pickup lane, without blocking traffic, 6 comfortably.
Okay. And so when you get 7 or 8, they're now in the drive aisle that blocks the circulation around the rest of the center?
If queuing would to get that deep, which it's not a traditional Starbucks with an ordering menu, yes, it would be hanging over, but the traditional parking study that we've had, and Chipotle has 400-plus locations now with many with their pickup window, they're not above 3 cars queuing. So we've doubled their queuing capacity at that, on our site plan.
And on this plan, it looks like there's like a cement island separating the two drive-through lanes. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
The landscape buffer, it will be, the landscape plan is one of those, but it is one way we are dealing with stormwater runoff and MWRD, so it was vital to our plan to have green area where we could capture water. It will be landscaped, there will be a curb there as well.
Okay. Again, preface that I'm not an engineer, but just a question for the future. Does it make sense on your future one, and I know you still have to come back to us for it, but just putting it out there now so that you're not surprised later. Does it make sense to have the other drive-through have like an opposite direction? And the reason I bring this up is that if you're, and just follow me real quickly because it has nothing to do with this approval tonight, but just want to point it out for the future. If you're going through the other drive-through, and we don't know what it would be, and you come out, and then you have to turn left, and then you have to circle the entire development to then exit. Putting it out there that maybe you guys find some other flow.
You're suggesting the drive-through goes the other way?
Yes.
The pickup window is on the passenger side of the vehicle at that point in time.
All right. That's a real good point, but I mean, your traffic flow looks like a mess. That's for another day. All right. Can you tell me how many garbage cans will be on the outside of the building for this Chipotle?
Chipotle will have one on their patio, on the 280 square foot patio, and ownership will have one on the front of the site too for overflow site garbage at this point. We will, once building 2 is developed, that user will have garbage cans as well as ownership will have garbage cans on the site.
But there's not going to be any garbage cans out by the parking stalls?
There would be one on the front elevation of the building, on the northern side of the building.
You really should consider putting more garbage cans, talk to Chipotle about putting them, further out by where the vehicles park. More and more people are doing this where they're, especially when you have these mandates that they're shutting down restaurants and there's no dining rooms that are open. And what happens is people are tossing their garbage out the windows and it's blowing into the neighbor's yard. So I would urge them to have some additional garbage cans to be a good neighbor because those people will be coming to us and we'll be coming to Chipotle.
We take that to heart. We are a neighboring property owner, as Mr. Perkins said, in the shopping center. So we are the neighboring owner. It was brought up at Plan Commission by neighbors coming out concerned about traffic overflows. So something to ease tensions is us as a landlord engages a sweeping company nightly to patrol the parking lot for exactly what you said, for customers that disregard their garbage on the parking lot opposed to finding a garbage can. So we will do the best we can with our sweeping service. We will advise Chipotle to have extra cans out there as well. But some people are still going to be disrespectful and discard their garbage in a place that is not a garbage can, unfortunately. But we will do our best and we will advise Chipotle to have extra cans.
I believe that giving people the garbage cans in front of them, they'll utilize them. Some won't, but most will. And then if I come out the front door and I've parked along the western edge, there's not going to be any kind of crosswalk taking me over there? I'm just walking across that lane, right?
Yes, you would be crossing the parking field as it's a traditional shopping center. There's not a crosswalk going out of the northern elevation going to the western angled parking.
So the northern crosswalk really has more to do to getting me to the sidewalk?
Yes, sir.
And then, as you know, this isn't a TIF district. You're not requesting any TIF funds.
No assistance.
Will not be coming forward at a later time asking us for any TIF funds.
Not for the Chipotle-specific project.
Is the Chipotle-specific project this one building?
This one site. I
Site.
own a lot larger acreage at the shopping center where I don't have a plan yet, but
All right,
I don't
but
wanna
on this
commit
site,
to this specific 1.2 acre parcel, yes, sir.
okay, thank you. And I have no other questions for you. Charles, the traffic that crosses all the way across the, was it 6 lanes of traffic there at Palatine Road?
Yes,
That's all regulated by IDOT?
correct.
So we could not impose a sign that says, you know, that you must turn left or right, that you can't cross all the way over?
We could on the private property, but not within the public rights-of-way. And then
Right. The reason I'm asking is, as you know, on Fernandez Avenue,
By the hospital.
South Fernandez Avenue, when you're coming up to Cooper's Hawk, you have to either turn right or turn left, and that's only 4 lanes there. But you cannot cross over into Cooper's Hawk.
correct.
So this would seem something similar, considering it's 6 lanes of traffic. It's residential. I mean, you know, I guess if I live over there and I want to go to Chipotle, maybe I'm not thrilled that I can't just cross right over, but I would think that it would make the most sense that we wouldn't have traffic that goes all the way across 6 lanes of traffic.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly can be looked at. We'd have to, you know, consult with IDOT, and ultimately it would be their decision because it is their right-of-way. It seems worse, but there is a difference because there's a wide landscape median in the middle where vehicles have an opportunity to pause and wait before completing that movement. So they can go across 3 lanes, wait, and then finish their movement. Based on the parking study at the peak hour, there's only 2 or 3 vehicles that are making that movement anyway. We did look at the accident data. There's only 2 to 3 accidents per year, and none of them have been, I'm not downplaying any accident, but there haven't been major accidents based on the data over the last 5 years. And then when you do close an entrance or prohibit a movement, it shifts traffic to another area. So it would shift that traffic. We only looked at the peak hour, not the total daily trips trying to make that movement. So it would shift the residents from that area to get to their neighborhood area, to their neighborhood to a different street. And we'd have to do more study on that.
I would appreciate it if you guys would do some more study on that. Thank you. I have no other
Okay.
questions.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor Hayes. I had just a couple of quick ones here for you. Charles, where else in town do we have a drive-through like this for fast food that is app only? Do we have any of these anywhere else?
Not that I'm aware of.
This will be the first, right?
I'm not a big fast food frequenter, so but I'm not aware of any. No.
Randy? Are you
I
implying Randy
believe
is a
Mr.
fast
Perkins
food?
is right.
I'm just asking. So, Mr. Silverman, thank you for coming and doing this, helping to revitalize this site that needs help. Have you been owners there for a long time, or is this fairly new?
I have recently acquired this 1.23 acre parcel in the past 90 days. I've been a landowner at South Point Shopping Center dating back to 2018. We have been, we own the Dogtopia building, the Caldwell Banker building, as well as some other smaller parking lot parcels out there. So we've been involved in it with the goal of acquiring this parcel, which took 3 years to do, but we finally achieved it.
Yeah, well, thank you for the hard work. As you can hear from all of us here, we're anxious to find ways to help that place do well, and maybe with your eager and your energy, get something going. And this is a great start. Chipotle, I assume this is the same Chipotle group franchise that's moving over from North Point, or is it different?
It's the national tenant, corporate tenant that's been in the existing shopping center to the north for 20-plus years.
Right.
So they are looking forward to moving, and I'm happy to report that the redevelopment of South Point Shopping Centers moving along quickly. We have another hearing coming up on Wednesday night for another outlot that we hope to see you guys in March for. So this is a multi-phase development that is coming down the road quickly.
So with these drive-through pickup app-oriented programs, my guess is people, 35 or 40 and younger are gonna get it. And they're gonna, everybody's on their phones and happen this and happen that and ordering and driving through and picking up. Old folks like me, maybe not so much. And what happens when I pull into this site and I'm seeing a drive-through, I'm like, oh, I can just drive through and order. Now, is someone gonna be able to recognize my error in judgment and come out and tell me to get the heck out of there? What's gonna happen to your ability to operate when people will pull in when they shouldn't? I mean, how are you gonna handle that?
Totally understand. Good question. The younger generation has picked it up. The generation but prior to them is still learning their way through it. So this situation is arising. As you can see on the site plan, if it was zoomed in, there's many pavement markings. It says mobile pickup window only. You will pull up and you will not see a traditional menu board. There will not be a menu board. There will not be a speaker. So you will naturally continue to go. You will get to the window and the Chipotle employee will ask you your name for your pickup order. And you would say, I don't have one. They would ask you to pull forward and come in the store. So it's not like you would then say, I'd like a burrito or a burrito bowl with this, this, and this, where they're going to make you there for 5 minutes long. They're going to ask you nicely to pull up, download the app and order, or come in the store and they'll help you.
Trustee LaBedz may argue with you and try and order her burrito bowl at that time, I think, is what you might do.
Excuse me, Trustee Tinaglia, but I'll have no problem ordering in an app ahead of time.
So far more advanced than I am. I mean, that is clearly
It's just
true.
like getting my pizza. Use the app too.
Clearly true. Well, I'm really hopeful you guys have this nailed and do a great job here. I'm confident in you. You're a young, anxious, eager guy, and this looks like a great thing for that property. So good luck. I hope you do well.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the board? Anything from the audience? None. Do we have a motion to concur with the Plan Commission recommendation? Trustee
moved.
Scaletta.
I would move to concur with the Plan Commission's recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Canty. Questions or comments from the board or the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys working with us on this development over the years and looking forward to investing in the community on this site and a couple more in the next coming months. So we will see you again. Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one other item of new business. That's the Arlington Town Square office entry signage for the property located at 21 South Evergreen Avenue. It's a request for sign variation. Is the petitioner present? Come forward. Just give us your name and your affiliation with the business.
David Bender with OKW Architects, project manager.
Okay. Why don't you tell us what you're looking to do here?
The center right now is mostly occupied, and the second floor office has been hit recently with some vacancy, so we're just looking to kind of revitalize that, do a little refreshing of the facade, paint the brick, and part of that, call more identification to the office, which is right now kind of lacking. You come out of the parking garage and there's kind of no direct visual recognition of where those second floor tenants are. So we're just looking for a variance to put the blade sign in. It's a request for a variance for the height of the sign and for the square footage, and a variance for the directional sign as well.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Perkins?
Thank you. The sign variation requests have been described, and I'll just kind of give a little background. There were a number of variations granted for this shopping center a few years ago. Those signs have not been installed or implemented. So this exhibit shows what was previously approved, and so part of the recommendation is to repeal the approval that was granted a few years ago for the office component for this area, to allow what's currently being proposed with the restaining of the brick and the vertical blade sign and the variations associated with that. Both staff and the design commission recommended approval of it. We did suggest that they consider a canopy to protect the entrance a little bit. But obviously that's not a requirement, but that was a suggestion. There were some questions about the tenant board in the top right here that would go high on the wall. There were some concerns from Design Commission if there was only one tenant on the second floor, then you'd have this big blank sign with one tenant listed on there, or that tenant may have their own wall sign on the second floor. But after discussing it, the Design Commission did recommend approval of the signs as requested.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Questions from the board? Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you. Yes, this has been a challenging location for office for a long time of getting some way to identify where the entrance is. So if you're coming from Evergreen, you'll see the Office Center sign. If you come up that stairwell, there's probably some signage in there, so you know you're in the right spot. If you're coming up from the building where the movie theater used to be and the sushi's places, and you come up on that elevator, that stairwell, and you come out, you'll be able to see this black sign with the tenant listing from there?
It would be right in front of you at that point, kind of directly to the north as you're coming up.
Right.
You'd have to jog past the corner there, but you'd be able to see it from the old theater entry.
Okay, and it's above all the canopies?
Yes.
And what the strips for each of the tenants that's listed on there, what are those made of?
Well, we haven't fully investigated the details of the signage yet, but the idea would be internally illuminated.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
The idea would be internally illuminated. The signage?
The wall sign's gonna be internally illuminated?
Yes.
So, okay. My concern with this signage really has to do with kind of turnover of tenants. And I know that, office leases, they're generally multi-year. But you're going to have some way of removing tenants when they leave and then putting up a blank,
Yeah,
right?
we'd have removable panels. The signage panels would be removable and easily replaced as tenants change. Or if one of them had to become two because we had blanks and someone wanted a bigger sign, we could do that as well.
I don't know that you could do that. I mean, what you're proposing here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines, right?
Yep.
So you're suggesting that if you only had 4 tenants, that they would have double lines?
We could leave them blank, or we could have double lines, either way. We could find a way to occupy those voids. Right now, there's 6 tenants up there and 3 vacancies, so we could give one of the bigger tenants a larger sign, but the idea would be to get this amount approved so that we could have, if we had max occupancy, have a sign for all the tenants.
Okay. Charles, is that how you see, I mean, would you envision a tenant having 2 of those lines and having a larger sign?
I have to admit, we hadn't envisioned it that way. We'd envisioned, the number of tenants, and the number of slots, like a typical directory sign. And if that tenant A left and a new tenant A came along, that you'd change the name. And if, B and C were vacant, there would be, a blank, plate put up there, a bit like the, directories that we have in our building here.
Right.
That was how we had envisioned it.
'Cause I would imagine that you would have the blanks that aren't being used, and then, maybe one that says, for leasing call, and just have like the number. But I think when we're looking at this and what we're approving is single lines for each of the tenants and not doubling them up on them, because if you were doubling up, then you'd probably have to come back before the board, or at least get administrative review through the staff, because that's not what we were approving this evening, correct?
Our view of this is seeking a variation for a directory sign. So as long as it remained a directory sign, each time they change a panel, they would need to submit for approval of that. So any change to a sign requires an amendment to the permit, and we'd have to, review that when it came before us. But, I suppose, if it looked nice and it still looked like it was a directory sign, we'd have to make that call when we saw it. If it looked like it was trying to change and become, an additional wall sign for the tenant, then they would need to seek a variation, for that. So it's hard to say without seeing what they would be trying to do. But we viewed this as a typical directory sign where they listed the tenants for each space that's in the building.
And if they wanted to put, leasing questions and a phone number, they could do that, right?
No, there would just be, for the tenants that are in the building, it would just be a tenant directory sign.
All right, well, I'm hoping that gives you clarification because, when we're looking at this and we're evaluating it on its face, of like what you're showing us.
Yeah, the idea is to show the individual tenants and nothing further.
I have no other questions at this time, but I do like it. You definitely need something else. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't put the other one in there. I do understand why they would want the blade, because it helps with people coming off of Evergreen. But I think the canopy would make it a little bit of a grander entrance, but it's not my building, it's yours, or theirs, who you represent.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor Hayes. So Charles, help me out here. Did the Design Commission take a look at this material that is going to be installed up there and the backlit nature of this concept, or how was it presented to them for this part of the project,
I'm not sure that the directory sign was envisioned to be illuminated. The blade sign definitely was, and that's called out as a variation request.
Internally lit
but the
blade sign.
internally lit blade sign, and that's one of the variations. But the directory sign, that was news to me as well.
Okay. Well,
I'd have to check with staff that reviewed the details on this to see if, there was anything in the materials that I didn't see, and that's possible.
and it's not that I'm suggesting that you can't do that. I know the Design Commission pretty well, and I know that they would want to know exactly what it is that you're hoping to put in there and how it'll be illuminated and what the colors are and all the textures and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if that is part of the program, then I'm sure that they would look at that pretty carefully and make a recommendation, yea or nay. As Trustee Scaletta said, I agree. You guys, your client needs some help here, and I'm in favor of anything we can do to help that happen. This seems tasteful. I just want to make sure that there are no surprises, that you're not commissioning someone to come and build something here and then have issues that it wasn't exactly what we all thought it was going to be. So just being mindful and careful to be good communicators on this with what you hope to do versus what's being reviewed versus what's being approved. So I'm glad you're doing it. I hope you get it done well.
Yeah, and just for the record, I just looking back at the notes here, the blade sign is the only one to be internally illuminated. The directory sign would not be illuminated because it was an additional variance.
Mayor,
Mr. Eckles, go
I'm just referring to the minutes of the Design Commission meeting. The applicant at that time said that the intent is that the top of the multi-tenant sign would be internally illuminated, and the remaining tenant panels will have specific letter sets of 6 inches. And then it said, according to ownership of the entire upper level is leased by one tenant, that tenant would only maintain the first tenant panel with 6-inch letter set height, and the remaining panels would be blank until such time as future tenants changed. And that's how they refer to it. There is a specific reference to the blade sign also being internally illuminated, but there is no reference to the in terms of a variation on the other aspect being internally lit.
Great, thanks for that clarification.
Trustee Scaletta, go ahead.
All right. So the top would say office center, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then the rest of them, that's why I was asking what the material was going to be, because, you know, I thought you were going to tell me they were going to be like magnetic strips.
No, we haven't fully designed the panels yet. Just
Well,
kind of
I
get
know
the
you
intent
haven't.
yet.
I mean, I would imagine that if you had to have designed them, even though you haven't produced them, but, I mean,
Well, usually sign vendor produces drawings that kind of detail that.
what's your relationship to the project?
We're the architects of record for Hutensky Capital.
Okay, and did somebody else present this at the design commission?
Nicholas, somebody did?
Yes.
And he's with the same
Yeah,
architectural firm?
OKW Architects, yep.
Okay, so he's not with a sign company.
Correct.
So what we're looking at is a rendering of a vision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Trustee Scaletta, I just
Yeah,
pulled up.
well, here, the only question I have is that, how do you end up with something that's internally illuminated at the top that's the same thickness as the bottom that's not internally illuminated? Go ahead. Or first the mayor.
Just for your help here, most times, we see at this level of approval, full shop drawing documents that show letter sizes and colors and materials and plastics and aluminums and so on. It's a very detailed set of drawings that come from a sign company. What you're showing us here are renderings and design schematics of what you hope to do, and which, frankly, I'm surprised that the Design Commission approved it based on just that limited information, because normally it's carried out much further before it even gets to them. So maybe that's what some of our struggle is here. It's just a little different than we normally see. Not that it's bad or wrong, it's just different, that's all.
So I did look up the details on the sign that are in the packet, and they are calling for 10-inch height letters, on the top of the directory sign that says Office Center, and it does call out that would be illuminated, but the remainder of the directory is not being called out to be illuminated. It's going to be a metal cabinet, according to this, with the aluminium panels that would be, replaced with different tenants.
So Charles, will your staff review all the shop drawings when this is, if it were to get approved tonight, the permits would be applied for and the drawings would be submitted by whatever sign company is producing this? The building department's going to review that, of course, but are you guys in the planning department going to review it again as well?
Yes, the
All
sign
shop
permit
drawings?
would come into the building, would be routed up to our department, and in this case, Steve Hadsinger would do the review and make sure it's conformance
And
with what was
anything that you
approved.
see that's odd or unusual or different, you'll make sure that you guys are questioning all that, and
Correct, yes.
that's exactly how it should be.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Seeing none, anything from the audience? Do we have a motion? Trustee Baldino,
I move to concur with the recommendation of the Design Commission.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Trustee Baldino, second by Trustee Bertucci. Further questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, there is no other new business, new business. So we'll move on to the report of the village manager. Mr. Reckloss, anything other than the request for closed session?
Nothing this evening.
We do have a request by Trustee Schwingbeck to make comment under petitions and communications.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to bring something up that I became aware of about 2 months ago. I was reading the Daily Herald, and in the very far corner of the newspaper page, under the suburbs in 60 seconds, there was a little blurb in there about adopting fire hydrants. And I've lived in this community for almost 34 years and was not aware of this program. So I looked into it, and I had talked with Lieutenant Alexson and found out, and I really want to talk about this not only for our residents watching at home, but I know we have a couple of our fine reporters in the room too, and I really think this needs to get out to our community. So we have a little over 3,300 fire hydrants in our community, and people that have taken part in this program where you adopt a fire hydrant, we've got about 72. So we certainly need residents that can get on board with this program. Really, the whole gist of the program is to, if you see something out there and the fire hydrant isn't, it's dripping or a cap is off of it, that you can report that to Public Works, especially in the winter months that we have right now as the snow builds up. And I've really paid more attention to this as I've been driving around our community. We've got fire hydrants in between neighbors' driveways, and they're plowing the snow, shoveling the snow up on top of the fire hydrant. We've got people in our community that are growing grasses and bushes surrounding the fire hydrant, and we really need to keep that area clear and shoveled so that when our fine men and women of our fire department go out to hopefully need to use one of these, that they can find it and they don't have to, especially now, shovel the snow out or trample through the snow to get to this fire hydrant. And when I was talking to the lieutenant, he said when they go out on a call, they've got a computer system in their fire trucks. They know exactly where the fire hydrants are, and occasionally they got to look for it. And they've got enough water on their fire engines to fight a fire for about 2.5 minutes until they can get hooked up and start using water from the hydrant. So I filled out the application. You can go to our village website up in the search bar, type in adopt a fire hydrant, fill out the paperwork, drop it off at fire station number 2 up on North Arlington Heights Road. You get a nice certificate sent to you, but it's a great way to assist our firemen when they're out there in the field and they need those hydrants to keep everything clean and in good working order. So, thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Schwingbeck. Anything further? Trustee Grasse.
Thank you, President Hayes. I actually wanted to bring up 2 different items, if I may, tonight, pertaining to our strategic priorities in hopes that we on the board can explore these a little further at a future date and agenda. The first is regarding the Inclusionary Housing Ordinance. I know I wasn't on the board when we removed the senior affordable housing, but I know there was talk about exploring that at a later date and seeing about maybe reinserting that into the ordinance. So I just wanted to offer that as an item I would like to see if the board would be willing to explore further at a date coming up.
Okay, what was the other one?
Oh, I didn't bring it up. So the other item, again, is regarding one of our strategic priorities, the DEI. And it is talking about finding a way that we could raise both the Juneteenth and the Pride flag during the month of June, specifically on the Dunton flagpole. Just one flagpole within the village, only those 2 particular flags. I wanted to explore that option as the board as well.
Well, with respect to the second one, I'm not willing to explore that for reasons that we've already indicated. We've crossed that bridge in my mind, and so I'm not willing to revisit that. And the first one, I'm willing to go with the will of the board on the first one. And I don't know, Mr. Recklouse, I know we've talked about these, the process for obtaining board concurrence with suggestions like this? What's your recommendation?
You know, what I'm happy to do is this isn't a topic that, you know, the inclusionary housing ordinance topic was something that we researched and there was some discussion. I'm happy to resubmit to the board the materials that were put out on that issue back when it was discussed, especially for the benefit of our newer trustees, but for everybody in case folks want to reconsider. And then what we typically do then is, you know, we'll be as simple as pull the board and see if there's interest in revisiting that topic. And if there is, then, you know, obviously that's the will of the board, and we'll put it on either a committee of the whole or upcoming board agenda for further discussion.
Okay, let's do that. Anything further from the board
Well,
under petitions and communications?
President
Councilor
Hayes,
Grasse.
I guess I'm curious, can we not take a poll of the board also with the other item? Is that something that we're not able to do? You know, I believe that there are ways that we can come together and explore options that meet all the concerns that were raised. We know that a special flag was included in the ordinance, so it's not that there can't be special flags. We know that we are, you know, openly proclaiming our support of Black History Month. Juneteenth flag has been raised both at the state and federal levels, as has the Pride flag. And so it's restricting to just 2 flags that have been flown and just a way to explore further as a board, a way for us to truly be a welcoming and inclusive community.
No, Trustee Grasse, we had this discussion and we passed an ordinance. And the very reason we passed the ordinance was so that we wouldn't have to go through this discussion again. So that's my feeling on it. I'm not willing to reopen that can of worms. Trustee Canty.
If I may, I'd be in support of having the conversation on both topics. When we did vote on the ordinance, it wasn't with the full board in attendance, and I think it does deserve the opportunity for the entire board to be heard on the issue. And we said that we wanted to talk about the inclusionary housing ordinance previously when we were passing that in 2020, and so I think the time has come. We said, let's give it a year, and now we've been at a year, so I'd be in favor of discussing both of those.
And if I may add, I do believe, Trustee Canty and President Hayes, that we did not have a full board for either of these ordinances when they were passed. Is that correct? I believe that.
I don't, you could be right. I just specifically don't recall, you know, in terms of how that worked. I want to say that there was indication of support by a majority, but obviously that's up to the board as to whether you want to revisit it or not. But as the mayor said, you know, there is an ordinance in effect, but that can be, you know, revisited if the majority of the board wishes to revisit it, just like any other issue.
All right, anything further from the board? Seeing none. Mr. Recklouse, request for closed session?
Yes, I would request that the village board enter closed session per 5 ILCS 120/2C21, discussion of minutes lawfully closed, whether for the purposes of approval of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes, and 5 ILCS 120/2C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the village has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the board finds that an action is probable or imminent.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
By Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. Roll call.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Grasse,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. So we are adjourned into closed session. We will not be reporting out. Thank you for joining us this evening.